I proposed to my girlfriend, but my brother was furious as she was his ex. Months later, he suddenly knelt and proposed to her at a family dinner. What would you do if your own brother got down on one knee and proposed to your fiancée, right in front of you and your entire family? Sounds like something straight out of a drama movie, right? But this actually happened to me. And trust me, it only got worse from there. A few months ago, I met Jen. She was everything I had ever wanted: smart, kind, beautiful, and we instantly connected. At first, I kept our relationship private. But as things got serious, I decided it was time to introduce her to my family. One night at a family dinner, I casually showed my parents some pictures of Jen on my phone. My mom gushed about how gorgeous she was. My sisters were excited for me. But then Mark, my older brother, grabbed my phone, and his expression instantly changed. His face turned red with anger. "Are you kidding me? You're dating my ex?" he yelled. I was completely thrown off. Jen had never mentioned dating Mark. Later that night, I asked her about it, and she admitted that they had dated, but only for 1 month. Mark had broken up with her because he was bored and never wanted to settle down. Even though their relationship was brief and meaningless to him, he still demanded that I break up with her immediately. I refused. And from that moment, things were never the same again. Months passed. My love for Jen grew, and I knew she was the one. So, on her birthday, I planned a beautiful dinner with both of our families and closest friends. When I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me, she said yes. The entire room erupted in cheers, except for Mark. I saw the rage burning in his eyes. But before he could ruin the moment, my sisters immediately shut him down. Then, 2 months later, Mark invited the whole family, including Jen and me, to dinner at his apartment. It felt weird. He had been avoiding me since my proposal, so why now? But since my parents and sisters were going, we decided to give it a chance. The dinner started off normal. We ate, we talked, nothing seemed off. Then, Mark suddenly stood up. "I have a big announcement," he said, looking right at Jen. Then, before I could even react, he got down on one knee, pulled out a cheap-looking ring, and proposed to my fiancée. Right in front office me. The room went dead silent. Jen looked horrified. "Mark, get up. What the hell are you doing?" she snapped. Mark ignored her and turned to my parents. "Mom, Dad, don't you think she and I belong together?" My dad jumped up to grab him, but before he could, I punched Mark square in the face. He stumbled back, laughing like a lunatic. "I just wanted to show you that Jen doesn't love you," he sneered. "She's just trying to get back at me." That was it. I grabbed Jen's hand, stormed out, and made a decision right then and there: Mark was not coming to our wedding. A few days later, my mother showed up at my house, furious. "You need to invite Mark to the wedding," she ordered. I laughed in disbelief. "Are you serious? He proposed to my fiancée in front of me. You really think I'd let him anywhere near my wedding?" "He was just joking," she snapped. "You're being dramatic." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Then she dropped the bomb. "If Mark isn't invited, then I won't be attending either." I looked her straight in the eye and said, "If that's what you want, go ahead. But I won't beg you to be there." She stormed out, furious. 2 weeks passed. Then my mom showed up again, pretending she wanted to make peace. At first, I thought maybe she had come to apologize. But the moment I brought up Mark's insane proposal, she rolled her eyes. "That was just a joke," she scoffed. "You're overreacting," I snapped. "A joke? You call him humiliating me in front of everyone a joke? You call him trying to steal my fiancée a joke?" Our argument escalated fast. We were yelling at each other when suddenly, Jen got up to leave. And then, my mother attacked her. She lunged at Jen, grabbed her hair, and threw her to the ground. She screamed insults, slapped her, and even tried to scratch her face. I lost it. I dragged my mother off Jen and threw her out of my house. She banged on our door for 10 minutes, screaming and sobbing, before finally leaving. That night, Jen cried herself to sleep in my arms. That was the moment I knew I was done with my mother. I reported the incident to the police, but since Jen didn't want to press charges, they couldn't do much. But my mother wasn't done yet. A few days later, she waited outside my workplace and cornered me. She screamed at me in front of my coworkers, calling me a traitor. "How could you do this to me? You ruined our family." I stared at her, disgusted. "You don't want legal trouble?" I said coldly. "Then you shouldn't have attacked Jen." She begged me to withdraw the police report. I refused. Then she said something that truly made me sick. "Your sisters forgave me. Why can't you?" I stepped closer, looked her right in the eyes, and said, "They can forgive you if they want. But I never will." Then I walked away, and never looked back. My wife declared, "Plenty of men want me," so I walked away, giving her the freedom to pursue what she believed was better for her. In the midst of an argument, my wife stated, "Plenty of men want me." So I left her to those men to handle. I never expected it to go down like this. It all started with a dumb quarrel, one of those minor, daily things that you forget about later but seem like the world is ending when they happen. She'd been on to me about something small, as usual, something about not putting out the garbage on time or perhaps not answering her phone soon enough when she was out with her pals. It was no big thing. Except she'd been carrying a lot of frustration lately, and I was the only one around to vent it on. That is when she said it. "Plenty of men would want me." She spat the words out, her eyes narrowing as she looked at me, challenging me to respond. The words hung there, weighty and piercing, more cutting than anything she'd spoken previously. We'd been through tough times before, certainly, but nothing had ever made me feel quite this way. It wasn't the first time we'd battled about something minor, but this seemed different. I wasn't prepared for the rage that erupted in my chest. Perhaps it was because, in the midst of the dispute, I understood she meant it. She wasn't just saying things to hurt me, there was truth behind them. A fact I could no longer ignore. The truth ached. She was not the same lady I had married. "I don't care about those men," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But it broke. I wasn't sure if I was angry or embarrassed about how I handled it. I was tired, mentally fatigued from attempting to cling onto something that seemed to be slipping away. But I wasn't sure how to stop it. The tension in the room grew. My heart began hammering in my chest, like if it were trying to escape. I could feel my pulse in my throat, fingers, and all over my body. I wasn't sure how to calm down. I didn't know how to convince her that I was doing my best. I was trying to be there for her. But nothing was ever sufficient. She did not back down either. In fact, she appeared almost pleased, as if she had won something I hadn't realized I was playing for. "Oh, I know you don't care. But you should. Maybe you'd actually start doing something right for once if you did," she told me. Her comments were chilly, yet with a hint of something deeper behind them. Something I couldn't quite identify. Resentment? Regret? A sense of accomplishment, as if she had finally found the way to break me. I wanted to say something, but my throat tightened suddenly. I wasn't sure if I was trying to save the person I believed I was fighting for or the notion of her. The one I'd been clinging onto for years. The person I thought I knew. She looked away, arms folded, her countenance unreadable. I could feel the distance between us increasing. Not simply in the gap between our bodies, but also in the way she began to stare at me. Her eyes did not soften when they met mine. Like I was no longer the person she cared about. I wanted to shout. To proclaim that I did not deserve this. That I'd been nothing but patient. Nothing except the present. Nothing but here for her. And she didn't notice it. But what good would it do? She was already checked out. I could see it in the way she carried herself, the way she avoided eye contact. It seemed as if she'd already decided. I felt little. Perhaps she was right. Maybe there were plenty more men out there who wanted her and could provide what I couldn't. But I was not going to be the one begging for morsels of affection. So I left. It was not dramatic. There were no slammed doors, yelling battles, or emotional goodbyes. I did not even pack a bag. I grabbed my jacket, slung it over my shoulders, and stepped out the door. Perhaps I should have felt more angry, sad, or confused. But all I felt was this strange, numb sensation of clarity. This was not working. She was not working. I wasn't working for her anymore. I wasn't sure where I was headed. I just couldn't stay there. Not now. Not after what she had said. It isn't like I hadn't considered leaving before. But this time, it felt different. This time, there was no going back. I didn't visit a friend's residence. I didn't call anyone to inform them what occurred. I simply drove. The kilometers passing felt like the world was dragging me away from everything. Away from the mess I'd gotten myself into. The silence in the automobile was like a shield. The only sounds were the hum of the tires on the road and the rhythm of my pulse. I ended up at a bar. Alone. It wasn't a classy establishment, but rather a rundown dive with the odor of old beer and fried food. But I didn't care. I ordered a drink, leaned against the counter, and felt the wine burn down my throat, as if it was washing everything away. It was the first time in months that I felt something, anything. The bartender gave me a knowing look. But I didn't care. I did not want anyone to know. I did not wish to explain. Then the door opened. Someone walked in. They grabbed my eye, just a fleeting glance, but I noticed how they stared at me. Not like a broken man. Not like someone who has recently left his wife, but maybe someone they could chat to? Perhaps there is someone they can be around. I did not know. And I didn't care. I knew they didn't see me in the same way she did, and for once, it seemed like it was all I needed. But I was not prepared to make any judgments. Not yet. The night was still early. I just kept drinking, letting the hours pass, feeling a strange sense of liberation develop within me. And then, I heard her name. A voice sounded from behind me. She said she'd leave you? I glanced around expecting to see someone I know. But the man speaking was unfamiliar. Nonetheless, his comments wounded deeply. What the hell? I turned slowly, trying to figure out why this stranger's comments felt like a punch in the gut. He was seated a few stools down, nursing his own drink, his gaze occasionally traveling to mine as he spoke. She said she'd leave you, he continued, more casually this time, as if we were already having the conversation. My heart stutters. My mind raced to catch up and grasp what this guy was expressing. Was he speaking about my wife? How in the hell did he know? Had she told anyone? Had she been informing others? I wasn't sure what to say. I just gazed at him, trying to decide if I should stand up and leave or ask him to elaborate. Who the hell are you? I finally managed to speak, though the words came out colder than I wanted. I was not searching for a confrontation, but I couldn't control myself. This guy knew something, and it made my stomach turn. He smirked, as if he had been waiting for this moment. But instead of providing an explanation, he simply shrugged, as if the solution were obvious. She didn't think you'd leave, he explained. Thought you'd just hang around, put up with whatever she threw at you. My mind was whirling. He had the audacity to talk about my life as if he knew everything. What did he know? What had she told him? I grasped the edge of the bar to keep myself stable. But there was an uncomfortable sensation crawling up my spine. Why are you telling me this? I inquired, my voice a little more calm now, but the anxiety was setting in. My fingers remained tight over my glass, as if it were necessary to keep me grounded. He took a slow sip from his drink and continued to act as if we were having a normal chat. As if he were some sort of confidant. Or something else. He did not appear to be uncomfortable. She came in here a few weeks ago, stated the worker. With someone else. I froze. My mind immediately flashed back to every time I had doubted her faithfulness. Every tiny adjustment in her behavior. Every unusual excuse. What do you mean, with someone else? I inquired, already anticipating the response. The man's eyes shifted to me, this time sharper. As if he knew he had my entire attention. I mean, she came in here with another guy. They were really cozy. She didn't even notice me watching. Guess she thought I was just another regular at the bar. I felt nauseous. I'd never had any tangible evidence of her unfaithfulness before. But hearing that from a stranger, someone who appeared so certain, felt like a brick slamming into my chest. I wanted to yell. At him. To demand information. To get him to return it. But I could not find the words. Instead, I found myself leaning forward, my elbows on the bar, as if being closer would make everything seem less real. You're sure? My voice was lower and almost pleading. I hated myself for asking, but I couldn't resist. I needed to know. The man leaned back and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Oh yeah. She was laughing, touching his arm, getting pretty close. She didn't even care who saw. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears, loud and quick. My entire body was on fire. But I didn't feel angry. It was a deep, gnawing ache, as if someone had chiseled out a portion of me that I had no idea existed. I wasn't sure what was worse. The possibility that she had been with someone else. Alternatively, she had not given it a second consideration. I don't think she cares much about you anymore, the man said nonchalantly, as if he were merely giving general advice. He gave me a look that made me feel vulnerable, as if he knew something I didn't want to disclose. I wasn't sure what to say. I could feel myself beginning to unravel. Piece by piece. Everything she had stated? The things I had disregarded or attributed to stress or something else. Was it all leading up to this? Was this the moment when everything I thought I knew about my life, my relationship fell apart? I gazed at the man, hoping for a response, some kind of closure. But he wasn't offering anything else. He drank his drink, looked aside, and signaled for another. As if this wasn't a significant issue to him. I wanted to shout. But I did not. I left. I scarcely noticed the stroll to my car. The frigid air pierced through me. The engine hums as it starts up. It seemed like everything had changed in an instant. Like the world was no longer a place where I could simply glide along thinking everything was all right. As I traveled into the night, my mind was racing with ideas and possibilities. I wasn't sure where I was headed anymore. I wasn't sure if I was escaping from her, or simply attempting to escape the sense of betrayal that had settled into my bones. I eventually pulled into a parking lot. One I did not recognize. The silence of the night surrounded me. The only sound was the gentle hum of the car's engine. I looked out the window, attempting to make sense of what had just occurred. But something else was nagging at me now. Something I didn't consider in the excitement of the moment. What if I wasn't the only person who had left? What if she were waiting for me to leave, so she could finally make her own decisions? I wasn't certain I wanted to find out. But I knew I needed to. I spent the next 3 days in a blur, mostly driving around, trying to clear my mind. But the ideas did not stop. Every street reminded me of her. Of everything we had built. And everything was crumbling apart. My phone rang several times, but I didn't have the energy to respond. I did not want to hear from her. Not yet. Not while everything seemed so raw. Then came the message. A basic text. Nevertheless, it felt like a bomb exploded in my lap. We need to talk. I looked at the text on the screen. My hand shook slightly as I read them repeatedly. I wasn't sure what she would say. But I could feel the tempest brewing inside me again. I did not want to chat. Not yet. Not while things remained so ambiguous. But I could not ignore it. I needed to know where we stood. I responded simply. I will be there. When I arrived at the residence, it was really silent. The front door was slightly ajar. The silence inside felt almost ominous. It was too vacant. Too still. She sat at the kitchen table with her hands folded together. She seemed smaller than I remembered. When she saw me, her eyes were a jumble of things. Guilt, perhaps. Or fear. I could not tell. There was also something else there. Something I couldn't quite identify. She didn't look at me the same way she had previously. Not the way I was used to seeing her. Her glance was not warm, no connection. I didn't know where else to start, she explained, breaking the stillness. Her voice was soft yet steady. I owe you an explanation. I swallowed the lump in my throat. It felt thick. You owe me more than that. The words came out sharper than I intended. But I didn't care. I needed answers. I wanted something to make sense of this chaos. She did not respond to the severity of my tone. Instead, she groaned and looked down at her hands. I never meant for things to get this bad. But things weren't right, were they? I didn't know how to fix it, and maybe I wasn't even trying anymore. I simply stared at her, my thoughts reeling. She was not even trying. That is what it boiled down to. I had overlooked all those subtle signs. All those occasions when I should have asked inquiries. I'd been too busy pretending that everything could be mended. That we could return to the way things used to be. She took a deep breath. For a brief moment, I thought she may cry. However, she didn't. Instead, she proceeded. I didn't want to hurt you. I thought if I pushed you far enough, you'd be the one to walk away. It would have been easier that way, right? But you didn't. You stuck around. And I kept pushing. And then, when I met someone else? She paused. I don't know. It felt like I was already done before it even started. My brain was spinning. Someone else. The word struck me harder than expected. It wasn't only the argument. Or her snarky remarks. It wasn't only that she appeared distant and frigid. She'd actually been with someone. What the hell are you talking about? I eventually choked out. My hands were clenched, but I was scarcely conscious of them. You think you can just go out and do whatever you want and I wouldn't notice? I didn't believe I was living in a fiction. But perhaps I was? Perhaps she was. She looked up at me, her eyes full of something, regret. I never wanted to hurt you, but I wasn't happy. I couldn't tell you that. I didn't know how. The silence stretched between us. A chasm that seemed impossible to cross. All these years. All of the moments we had shared. So here we were. Sitting in the kitchen. Strangers. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. So what now? You just expect me to walk back into this like nothing happened? I shook my head, my frustration finally spilling out. You think I just forget? That I let you shut me out like that and then come back? I'm sorry, she whispered. Her face wrinkled, but she did not respond. Instead, she looked away, as if she couldn't take the weight of my words. I stepped back and ran my hand through my hair. Attempting to think, attempting to breathe. You were right about one thing, I told you. My voice was shaking now, even though I fought to keep it steady. I did leave. You wanted me to go? And I did. But not for the reasons you think. She blinked, a scowl forming on her forehead. What do you mean? I felt a rush of bitter laughter rise in my chest. But I did not let it out. Not yet. I left because I finally saw it. I saw that you don't see me anymore. I'm just someone you're stuck with. Someone who will always be here, no matter how much you push. You made me feel small. And then you decided it wasn't enough. So you found someone else. Her voice was scarcely audible now. It wasn't like that. It was a mistake. An error. I scoffed as the ache in my chest made it difficult to breathe. You don't just make a mistake like that. You make choices. You make decisions. And you chose him. The hush that followed was smothering. Neither of us knew what to say next, because the truth came out. It was in the air, heavy and obvious. She'd betrayed me. And I had to make a decision. Can I live with that? Could I even attempt to restore what we had? Or was it simply too far gone? I turned towards the door. My body felt weary. My heart was broken. But something inside me stood taller than it has in months. I can't do this anymore, I murmured quietly. I'm done. I walked out the door without saying another word. I did not glance back. And as I drove away, the weight on my chest gradually lifted, little by little. The route ahead was unclear. It was not easy. For the first time in a long while, I was making my own decision. And maybe, that was all I needed to do.